Hello my friends and welcome. Finally we have the result of the elections 2024 in the United States of America. The next United States president is Donald Trump. Sorry about me wearing glasses, I was streaming the event for 8 hours, so my eyes are now very sensitive to the light and I haven't slept yet. But I want to tell my own impression about this campaign and why this result actually happened. We all thought that it will be the tight election, but in general Donald Trump wins the majority of the states. Plus the popular vote, which happened for the first time for Donald Trump in 2016, he won the elections but not the popular vote, but it seems like this time indeed he is prevailing, so the United States election scheme doesn't matter in this case. The simple majority actually could potentially elect Donald Trump. And that is how democracy works. The majority decides, and whether we like it or not, but Donald Trump is the next United States president. So what we can do is to accept this choice of the American people and work with Donald Trump and his administration. As a guy from Europe, I didn't have the direct influence on the United States elections, but I had my own preference and it was Kamala Harris, but now she's a history. And yes, Democrats lost not just the presidential elections, but the elections in Senate. And the majority in the House will also be Republican. So because the elections were honest, I share my congratulations to the red team in achieving their victory in many of the points. As for the blue team, guys, thank you for participation. You did absolutely everything to win the elections. But yes, the reality is like that. Donald Trump is the next United States president. An absolute outstanding comeback. It's the second time in the United States history that the president loses the elections, but after one term gets elected once again. But in Donald Trump's case, it's very unique because he was accused of many wrongdoing before, but finally managed to return. So let's be honest, this result shows that the majority of people are not okay with their current situation in economy and I think in politics of the United States. They're not okay with their lives in the United States. And they're seeking for the possible solution. Kamala Harris is the part of the Joe Biden's team. And I guess that is the main reason why she wasn't elected. On the other hand, Donald Trump proposed the simple way for the solutions, but he used the populist rhetorics for that. People elected him, but it doesn't mean that he will resolve all of the issues. By the way, including the war in Ukraine, and also the external politics for American people mattered just for 4%, if we check out the statistics of the main issues which people were concerned about. Also, Kamala was the candidate whom people didn't really know. She stepped in a few months before elections and already signaled about some of the issues in the Democratic Party. Would it be the same outcome if Joe Biden participated in the campaign? I think yes. The polls showed that Joe Biden had even lower rating. So even though Kamala is the young politician relative to Trump, but she represents this old school politician culture. I would say that her ruling would be the same as Joe Biden's, and many people agree with that, including the support of Ukraine. Let's be honest again, my friends. Joe Biden's administration restricted Ukrainian support a lot. Remember the time that Joe Biden signed the Land-Lease bill for Ukraine? Well, not a single bullet was sent to Ukraine according to that bill. It was just a paper for a paper. All of the military support Ukraine got was in separate packages as a part of the other bill, which was coordinated with Congress, but after all, Congress was blocking the military support of Ukraine for a very long time, so in that case Land-Lease would have helped, but it was gone by the time. We may also include that Ukraine has no invitation to NATO, that Ukraine has no permission to strike the Russian infrastructure on the Russian territory using ATACMS missiles for the full range. And you know, recently I found out that Joe Biden was one of those senators who called to disarm nukes for Ukraine back in 1990s. And now we have the North Korean soldiers deployed in Russia against the Ukrainian forces. So this administration is really fluffy, not just towards Ukraine, but towards the United States of America itself. Then Houthis are free to damage the commercial ships in the Red Sea, and the United States plus other allies are unable to do anything with this. The freaking United States military bases are being attacked in Iraq and Syria by Iranian proxies, and sometimes maybe by Iran itself, and nothing is done about that as well. So dictatorship united for the last few years. North Korea, Russia, Iran, and I guess China here in the company. All because of the West politicians are showing their weakness. And Biden's administration really bears responsibility for that. So as I told you many times, if Kamala Harris had elected, I wouldn't expect any sort of the changes towards the military support of Ukraine. They would give just partial military support, barely enough to hold the positions or not enough to hold the positions as we see from the current picture on the front lines. Ukraine would just give up its territories little by little with severe losses in the army. Yes, there is the same scenario. If Donald Trump gets the power, it's one of the scenarios. But Donald Trump is really an unexpected guy. I mean, he's really unstable in his actions towards Ukraine or other countries or inside the United States. He's unpredictable. Why I still did support Harris in those elections? Because she's more predicted. And you can build a long-term strategy with her. Under Trump's ruling, no one knows what might happen. I'm also concerned about the Trump's team, J.D. Vance, the vice president, who basically doesn't like Ukraine. Also, Elon Musk, who will take some term position in the White House, is kind of the creepy guy. And I don't think that he is truly a friend of Donald Trump. No, he follows his own interest, and the true interest of Elon is yet to be discovered. Donald Trump promised to stop the war in Ukraine even before getting to the office. He said something about 24 hours. Well, let's see how it works. I think it will not work. Putin will not listen to Donald Trump. Why should he, after all? What Donald Trump may propose to Putin for Putin to freeze the war, because Russia is gaining the ground. Like it is happening every day. Just look, every day Russia moves. So it was like 5 days ago, 1 week ago, and now it's like that. So Russia is successful. Why should Putin stop? The demand for Russia to start negotiations, just to start negotiations with Ukraine, that Ukraine should give up Donetsk Oblast, Kherson, Zaporizhia, Luhansk, and in that case Russia maybe will start talks with Ukraine about the possible ceasefire and peace. And you probably may understand that never ever any kind of the Ukrainian government with Zelensky or without Zelensky would sign the papers to give up its own territory to Russia, because those demands are basically the capitulation of Ukraine. And because Russia gives those impossible demands, it means that they are oriented to continue the war. It is understandable, like 2 + 2 = 4. But Donald Trump is sure that he has something to propose. You know, this guy also promised to finish the war and he was elected. Yes, by that time there was also the war between Ukraine and Russia, but the scale of the war was limited. Some shooting at the front line between Ukrainian forces and the self-proclaimed republics of DPR and LPR. But still there were some of the casualties, and Zelensky said that to finish this war we need to stop shooting. Our military community and veterans didn't understand that move. They say to him that if we stop shooting, Russia will shoot us. But Zelensky was living in his own world. He was sure that it is possible to negotiate with Putin. And in 2021 it was understandable even for Zelensky that negotiations with Putin are absolutely not possible. Since that time we see how the rhetorics of President Zelensky changed. And now it changed completely, so the same stuff will go with Donald Trump. He thinks that he is able to negotiate with Putin on Ukraine, but it's not real. So what do I think that Trump wants to achieve then he speaks about the deal with Russia? Well, Donald Trump considers China as the main competitor and also as the main threat for the United States economy. So what he tries to achieve is to take Russia from China's influence. And he spoke about it openly even in his rallies. He says that Russia and China are now united and getting closer. It should have never happened like that. But I guess that the problem for Ukraine that Trump would like maybe to give Ukraine under the Russian influence, but say to Russia not to have China as a friend. I think that it is the main strategic goal for Trump's administration, and I also think that it will not work for Putin. Putin will not risk his warm relations with China under the temporary profit from current White House administration, because as we know, it's the last term of Donald Trump, and who will be elected the next term, no one knows. But Russia and China, two autocracies where the power is unchangeable, may build a long-term relationship. And Putin again is sure that with the help of the military power, he is able to achieve military goals in Ukraine. So there is the probability that if Donald Trump sees that Russia is not following his deal, he would supply lots of the weaponry to Ukraine to conquer the Russian army on Ukrainian territory, to show that Russia, you have to make a deal with me. Only in that case Ukraine has the chance to receive lots of the weapons from the next White House administration. Again, I may be wrong and all of that is just biased. But after analyzing Trump campaign, I think that he is really concentrated on the Chinese issue and how Russia works with China. Trump is the president of the United States and he follows the interests of his own country. For him, Ukraine could be just a coin in his big game. Unfortunately, yes, nothing personal, it's just big politics, business as business. But we know that Zelensky and the Ukrainian government officially say that they will not follow any kind of the capitulation plan, and it is good in this case. There were some of the positive steps from the previous Trump's presidency, then he supplied some of the javelins to Ukrainian army. Yeah, it wasn't enough, but it was the first supplyment of the lethal military equipment to Ukraine. Before, Obama's administration supplied some of the armor vests, and that's it. Also, we remember how the United States Army absolutely nailed the Wagner group in Syria, where the Russian mercenaries lost hundreds of troops. It was a big win, really. And for me personally, it was the first time that I heard about the Wagner group. We might also remember the main Iranian general Soleimani and what happened to him also under Trump's administration, and it all happened that the military conflicts were not the mainstream as they are right now. So we may like Donald Trump or dislike him, but after all, that guy is not a fluffy one, at least compared to the current White House administration. But again, what worries me that Donald Trump may cancel all of the military support for Ukraine. But the General Secretary of NATO, Mark Rutte, already said that Trump will not cancel the military support of Ukraine and he'll not retreat the United States from NATO. He said that he was speaking with Donald Trump, that he was Prime Minister of Netherlands, and he reassured people and journalists who took the interview that Donald Trump will follow democratic steps. Well, I just hope that Mark Rutte is right, and what I'm also sure about, that the United States will develop as the democratic state. I understand that many of you could be disappointed with the election result, but my friends, come on, don't be pessimistic. You'll not be useful after all if you'll be in a bad mood. If you want Democrats to win, you'll have the other opportunity in 4 years. And you know, the United States has something that is absent in China, in Russia, in Iran, in North Korea. You can change the power with majority of the votes. It's the democracy. For example, I don't like this guy being the Ukrainian president. I didn't vote for him, but I accepted the choice of the majority of Ukrainians. Whether we like the result or not, but we have what we have. There will be always complaints, there will be always losses. Someone after all will lose because the country is alone and there should be a single commander, the commander of the airplane. President, Prime Minister, but someone who is definitely in charge, yes, under some of the limitations, like with all of those weights and balances, but it should be a single person. Now for Ukraine, it's Zelensky. Was it the best choice for Ukrainians? I don't think so. Is Donald Trump the best choice for the United States? I also don't think so. For me, really, he's too narcissistic, too selfish, and I'm sure that he is not pro-Russian, pro-Ukrainian, or even pro-United States. I think that Trump is pro-Trump, so he follows his own interests, that's it. And with this, guys, we're entering a severe turbulence, so buckle up, be ready for any sort of the changes, because this guy is absolutely unpredictable. You know, under my previous videos, some of the bots wrote that I would be crying if Donald Trump gets elected, but actually I'm positive because life is life and it's very interesting. You have to overcome challenges, and under Donald Trump, those changes could be significant. So significant that those MAGA trolls in the comments may also, after all, cry with their idol and with their choice. Hopefully it will not happen like that. And again, guys, never create the idol for yourself just not to get disappointed after all. Politicians are just following their own profits. Trump promised lots of the stuff before elections, and I bet that he will not implement the majority of his promises because it's impossible to achieve those. And one more thing I want to tell you about this election outcome. Trump's campaign was really smart compared to Democrat campaigns. His team was focusing on small hype stories. Like for example this one, Trump was working in McDonald's. Those photos and videos connected to that stuff went viral among internet. And not just this story, Donald Trump participated lots of the podcasts, he really went into the social media. After all, the majority of the mainstream media are the liberal sources of the information. So this time Donald Trump decided to go to absolutely different field. And it worked. People reposted the hype around Trump. And Trump, being a populist, just nailed this surf wave and continued to glide to the victory. Remember the recent case with the peanut the squirrel? The story went viral around the internet. It showed the soulless behavior of the New York authorities and animal control, which detained this guy and his partner who took care of the squirrel. Authorities took away Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon, and later on zeroed them. And absolutely crazy stuff happened, and Elon Musk plus Donald Trump immediately jumped in. So their campaign was really smart. Believe me, they do not care about the squirrel after all, or about the raccoon. They take care about their own rating, and they will use the story in their favor. Because under Trump's administration it would never happen, but it's not like that, come on. But under the Donald Trump's presidency there were even worse cases, and not with the squirrels, but with the real people. Actually, things like that could happen under any sort of power, because the system itself is the same. So guys, to conclude, no worries if you're a Kamala supporter. Just take a beer and spend a nice day, because by losing your mood you'll not change the situation. After all, you have democracy, and the next choice of yours will come in 4 years. And if you're a Trump supporter, again, congratulations in this fair democratic election victory. And you may also take the beer and drink, I hope, for the positive changes coming. Your boss leader is really unpredictable. I just pray to God that he will be a positive solution for every one of us, including Ukraine. So guys, I wish you all a peaceful sky as usual wherever you are, and have a great time.